Hi, everyone. Tom Hunt, Director of Treasury Services at AFP. Today, we're sitting down with Frank Diamedeo, Director and Assistant Treasurer at Con Edison, to discuss his session at AFP 2021, which takes place in November 7th through the 10th in Washington, D.C. Frank's session is titled Identity Crisis, Best Practices in Fraud Mitigation, and is also part of the Payments Educational Track. Frank, thanks for sitting down with us and joining us today.
Thank you. And as a longstanding member of the AFP, I look forward to participating in the sessions.
Absolutely. I want to dive into some questions now about your session and what we want the audience to take away with. Could you just briefly describe what your session is about for AFP 2021?
So our session is going to cover payment fraud or fraud in the industry. Payment fraud's always been a problem in our industry. However, over the last few years, not only has fraud been on the rise, but the techniques that the bad actors are using are becoming ever more creative and aggressive. So legacy fraud prevention policies, procedures, and tools are simply not enough to combat today's modern fraudsters. So our session is going to deliver an overview of the current trends and types of fraud that are on the rise, provide some insight on how you can position your company to preemptively combat fraud attacks. And the session is also going to provide an overview of some tools and techniques which can be used to combat or mitigate fraud.
Great. Why do you think this topic is so important to Treasury and Finance?
So I look at Treasury as the organization responsible for educating the rest of our company. The business side of most companies, until they get burned to a certain extent, are removed and not aware of the ever increasing threat. So we as Treasury and Finance professionals need to learn as much as we can and influence other departments to implement new tools and techniques and procedures. And after all, this is war, in my opinion, with an invisible enemy. And in some ways, I look at Treasury as the last line of defense.
Great answer. What's been a real interesting development in this area?
To me, it's the ever-evolving sophistication of the fraudsters. They seem to be taking a corporate approach these days. They're onboarding people with experience in hacking technology, social engineering, finance, banking, and yes, even in grammar skills. The stuff that we see, the English, is now really good, and it's no longer easy to pick out a poorly written email and you could just assume it's fraud. So fraud has become profitable in this industry, and the leaders, in my opinion, are taking a really big business approach. So we're no longer fighting the so-called amateur fraudsters.
Gotcha. Any insights from the pandemic around this?
So it's clear to me that bad actors are trying to take advantage of these uncertain times. They're looking for new opportunities to profit on the disruptions in normal business operations in this age of what I guess we're all considering now as the new decentralized workplace. Individuals and organizations are being treated more than ever, targeted rather more than ever through the use of social engineering via extremely well-structured business emails, phone, and text messages. The quality of these fake websites are just simply amazing these days. Also, I guess on another note, the pandemic, unfortunately, has displaced many people from the workplace. So they're trying to put food on the table with limited resources they have. And we're noticing a small increase in customers paying bills with stolen credit cards that they're buying on the dark web. And the interesting thing is it's near impossible to get local law enforcement to do anything about it. This level of fraud is so petty that the people that are perpetrating these use of these stolen credit cards they know they're not going to get prosecuted because of it.
Does that take a lot of your staff time to resolve those petty payments and things like that?
Not really. We just more or less eat the loss. It's not worth the time and effort. The credit card company notifies us of an unauthorized charge. We reverse the charge on the customer's account. and we go about our business. But next month, they use another stolen credit card to pay the entire arrears balance. We're no longer turning customers off because of the pandemic, so they know they can play this game for a while.
But you've gotten smarter and better at tracking some of those payments coming in and going out, right? In terms of looking at different schemes that might be developing.
So we've used some technology to start looking at repeat players, if you will. So if they're using a different credit card number every month, we have some customers that are using different banking account numbers on their ability to come in on our website and make a direct payment. And we're tracking different types of scenarios with some tools that we have looking for anomalies in payment patterns.
Gotcha.
And then shutting down those payment types as an option for the customer to pay with.
Gotcha. Being a little more vigilant on the front end, definitely. It's a great takeaway from the pandemic. So what's one takeaway you hope your audience gains from attending your session in November?
Well, that's a good question. So over the years, I've been asked to participate on panels or present to industry peers. I've had a consistent motto: try not to be boring, give the audience quick action items to take back to the workplace. And these can be quick hits that have low cost, high impact, or long range strategic ideas that'll need some funding and take some time to implement. Some of the best practices that we're going to cover in the session will be giving ideas to implement on your treasury side or within the corporate business side. But one important takeaway that I'd like to emphasize during the session is in the area of cyber insurance. It's not good enough to just have a cyber insurance policy. There are things that we need to do to comply with the policy. And in my experience, we found that people are not aware, within the corporation, are not aware of these things that we need to do to comply with the policy. So I'm hoping that we can cover some techniques and some things that you need to be aware of and potentially educate others in the company so that if you have an attack, you're well positioned to be funded from an insurance claim in the future.
Frank, thank you again for your time today, and we look forward to hearing more from you at AFP 2021 this November in Washington, D.C. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.